PFP,
Yeah.
all right. Passion for paddling. All right, I'm into it. Yeah.
It gives everybody something different. So I really want to get people to share like what paddling gives to them in their life through
It's like an
this whole
obsession.
thing. It really is. Because I remember when like we were younger, like after
Uh-huh.
Prague, and you and I would like talk in the off season being like, oh, I just have to paddle. Like now I have like restless paddling syndrome. And it's
Oh
like,
my God.
do you remember
Please
that?
don't bring that. Yeah, please don't bring that up.
We were such nerds though, because we were talking about like, yeah, I just have to like do an air paddling motion just to like get all my jitters out. Like,
Oh my gosh.
but also like that just goes to show like how passionate we were about it, even as like relatively like novice people.
When I wasn't on the water, I would just think about being on the water or like training or just getting on the dragon boat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or even before, it really is an obsession though.
Yeah. And how old were you at that time? Because I was about 14.
I was 18, yes, 18.
So this must have been like right after. So you were probably like 18, 19 or something at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think you were like my first long distance dragon boat friend. Well, not even that long because you were still in like the DC area at that point, but like
Right.
just kind of thinking about myself now, and I'm sure for you too, like all of the friends that you've made through paddling who don't necessarily live around you, but you still talk to about paddling.
Right. Right. Um, and that's funny you say that because my paddling friends, I mean, I still like with you, right? Like, so I wouldn't expect, like, I kind of would expect that, the kind of, it's almost funny that we kind of started at this age and then now we're at that young age, right? And we're kind of coming up now in the paddling community, right? As I mean, I don't think no one knows who I am, but people know who you are.
Now
Right?
you're a breezy boy.
No,
People know who you are.
No, people don't know who I am, right? But it's funny because like I know when we were at nationals, I was like, oh my gosh, is that Katie Peck? Just,
Oh my gosh. And then people afterward were saying to me like
ambassador to Pukea, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, she really made it.
I'm not an ambassador. I'm a team rider. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, but... team rider. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, team rider.
Honestly, like, but like then it comes like makes me think like, what does it mean to like have made it in the paddling community? Because there was actually another paddling podcast. Oh, it was an like up and coming paddlers thing, and the host was like, "Oh, she's already made it in my mind. Like, she's already up there." And I was just like, all of this is making me think to myself, like, what does it mean to make it? Because like, I don't think I've made it. Like, I still have a lot of like learning and growing to do. I think
it's relative. It's relative because you can never say that you've made it, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, right? Because the discipline is so broad, right? In paddling, I mean, unless you're like at the Olympic level, right? Then yeah, for sure you've made it, right? But in the other disciplines, right? I think what is it to make it, right? I think what it is for my definition for making it, right? At least my goal or my definition of making it, right? Because paddlers out here in California, it's competitive. People are fast, and you have to learn and you have to keep up. And you have to continue to progress. So progressing for me, and once I start to realize like I can start keeping up, like once I start reaching that like higher echelon or higher tier, and when I start seeing the results in those races, then to me that's like making it, right? Because then I can I'm like either within 5 minutes or I'm like either I could see them but they're super far, right? So it's all relative. And I think and that's just at least in outrigger canoe racing. But in dragon boat, I think making it for me is like, at least my goal has always been trying to make premier and be on Team USA at the World Championship. Like that's always been like that's like me, like I'm ready.
It's your
like
personal definition.
yeah, like that is something I've been striving for a long time. And, and I'm just hoping one day, like I can make it just there. Right. So that's for me.
2023. This is your year.
Yeah. 2021 was my year, but now, that got canceled. So now we're shooting for 2023. Right.
Yeah.
So,
but you're also still going to a world event anyway this summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And y'all are going to do very well there, because I look at my Strava every day and I'm like, oh God, what are they doing?
Hey, Strava is it's a blessing and a curse. Like when I was training when I was training for Worlds, I would see people training who I know were trying out for Premier, and that was like my way to keep myself accountable. That because I know this paddler, they're super strong, right, and they're super fast, and I'm like, man, they're training really hard, and like, what am I doing, right? So I was like, when I was training for Premier time trials, like I was constantly like looking at Strava, like what are they doing? What am I not doing, right? And it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. But yeah.
This podcast is not meant to really be about me, but I will throw in one thing, that like watching you Californians from the East Coast in the winter is scary. Because it's like, oh, they're like out there, and I'm looking at like if there's like weather reports involved in it, and it's like, ooh, like 60 degrees. Man, I wish it was 60 degrees out here, because it's like 30 right now, and the real feels 23, and this is horrible.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, but at the same time, I think this is kind of like blanket for everyone, not just me. With Strava, you kind of have to take, like, everyone's doing their own thing. Like,
Yeah.
You might be training for like an outrigger race and like a time trial. Someone else might only be training for the time trial, or someone else might be doing like marathon canoe. So like, and everyone has their own way of kind of getting there. Right. So yeah.
Exactly. But I think that's where obsession comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So.
And then it's like, is it a healthy obsession or not? There's a line.
There is a line. There is a line. There is a line for sure, where you find yourself like, what you find yourself like missing things, or like kind of, things that should be priority start to kind of be, start to slip it a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay, I got to recalibrate. Right. So.
Yeah. Work, family.
Yeah. Work. Right.
School.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Would you be okay with diving into some of the questions that I sent you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So can you talk a little bit about how you started paddling, when, where?
I kind of first started getting paddling. It started, let me take you back. It started back in 2008. My uncle, he had signed us up, me and my family, for a dragon boat race in Washington, D.C. And when I first heard about dragon boat racing, I was like, what is that? I was like, what? Dragon, obviously everyone thinks about like what dragon boat racing. I mean, in my head, I was like, there's got to be a dragon involved or something, or whatnot. I don't know. I had no idea. And so we go to our first practice, and I was like, okay, this is kind of neat. And how everyone tries out their first paddling, right? They're just kind of going at it, and then learning just kind of from what the coaches are teaching you. And then so the first team I was on was like kind of a festival team. It was called Fire on Water. And our first race, I think it was the first race that I did at the DC festival, we really had to learn like that working together and entering together and being synchronized is super important, rather than just trying to, hammer it out, like just trying to pull water as hard as you can. But I remember being at the start line, and, you're like pulling up to the start line, and the starters, giving your calls and movement. And after, as soon as that horn hit and we just started going, and next thing you know, we were crossing the finish line, and I was like, whoa, that was cool, right? Then that was like, I've been hooked ever since, right? I've been hooked ever since with paddling. And then, you know, I did Dragon Boat for a long time. Started just paddling on one side, and I learned how to paddle on the other, and started to kind of cross train. But it wasn't really until I moved to California where I really got into like outrigger canoe racing, and kind of using those both two disciplines to be working together.
When did you move to California?
I moved to California in 2012.
So you've been there for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been a while. I feel like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like that long ago, but it is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. So 10 years goes by pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
I feel old just saying that.
I mean, like you and I have known each other for like 13 years. So
yeah,
that's a long time too.
Yeah, it is a long time.
Can you talk a little bit about your Dragon Boat Worlds experiences and how or if that kind of influenced you as a paddler?
Yo, big time. I think it's a huge experience. I think getting that experience when I was, I think 18 or 19 years old, going to Prague, and then I just started paddling like maybe 2 years ago, and tried out for the under 18 team. I had no idea, like I was like, maybe I'm not good enough, right? Maybe I'm not gonna be fast enough, and then, or I had those doubts, but I did my time trial, and was able to get selected. I was super stoked, and I was like, okay, like what's next, right? So, and then I was super committed because I was driving up to Philadelphia like on the weekends to make practice at like 5:30, right? Or 6 o'clock, and training up to Worlds, right? You get to Worlds, you're as being my first 18 years old, 19 years old, going to a world championship, and then watching the highest tier of paddling, dragon boat racing, that leaves a pretty big impact, right? So it leaves an impact of like what do you want to go, where do you want to achieve, right? So going to Worlds Prague, right? That was a great experience visiting Czech Republic. Great experience watching like the fastest teams in the world, because at that time I was only watching it on YouTube, and this when YouTube first came out, and I was watching the 2007 like 500-meter final, and I was like, that was like what I expected it to be, right? So I mean, it was a good experience overall, like as under 18, and and it's come a long way since then, for sure. And then my second one was in Tampa Bay, Florida. We're like the first generation of under 24 or under 23 Florida. And
yeah, back when it was U23.
Yeah, when it was U23, right? And that was also a good experience, a new experience, because I was like one of like 3 or 4 East Coast paddlers on a mainly California heavy team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I kind of started learning, like, everyone kind of paddles differently, or different styles, or different techniques, or philosophies, right? And there's never a way. There's never the way to paddle, right? There's always a way. And I was kind of, you have a lot of people from California come race in Florida, and then that was a cool experience too, because then California paddlers, they're like, that was my first experience with them. They're totally different, right? And that was a great racing time. I mean, we got beat by Canada like really bad, but but it's a learning experience, right? Because then for me, it was like, I don't want to do that again, right? I don't want to be beaten so bad again, right? So the next season, next cycle around, I was like, I'm gonna train really hard, and then it just kind of cycles away that way. And then this time we're going to Worlds for club crew, and this will be my first club crew, and I have high expectations for my team. And, you know, I'm definitely going into it pretty seriously and training really hard for it because, you know, I think we have to care about where we're going, right? And the racing that we're going to be doing, especially if that's at that level. I think it's really important that we all get, if we're going to be racing at that level, even as a club, right? The mindset needs to be there. And, you know, if the coaches are pushing that out, right, that we're like, you know, we all should be taking this seriously then, yeah. So I think that's how it kind of, it all depends, Katie, right? It depends on the where you're at in like the competition, right? So
Yeah, and we're going to be paddling against each other at
yeah.
this world, so that's fascinating in its own way.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun
Yeah.
racing against you in nationals. So I
Yeah,
look
so
forward to
we
that.
got part 2 in July.
Yep.
Would you say you have a favorite paddling moment? Like either something that happened at a practice or at a race or with another paddler, or if there's like a particular trip that you really liked or something?
My favorite paddling moments is um actually, yeah, one of my favorite paddling moments recently was when we were at US Nationals in Florida in Sarasota, and during the pandemic, right, where everyone's kind of locked in, right? At least here in California, we were able to get on the water, and that was kind of like our escape of everything. But during that time, right, then we, you know, kind of a little bit more on your social media account, right? Start following more paddlers, right? Kind of see what they're doing. And it's funny when you meet Instagram paddlers in real life. That was like, those are some of my like favorite moments, like at nationals was you're like, hey, you know, you're that one paddler on Instagram that does this or that, right? So I thought it was pretty, those are pretty good moments.
Who did you meet?
Let's see. I met a couple of the catch 22 paddlers, like
Oh yeah.
Lily.
Mm-hmm.
Lily, that was cool. Darby the Dragon.
Oh, Elle, yeah.
L, yeah.
Who's now in California. Like talk about
Yeah.
full circle. And she's paddling for Southbreeze, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Yeah. So really full circle, like concentric circles even.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So South Breeze, and then let's see who else. I met what's her name? She's from Oceanside. You paddled with her during the crossing.
Oh, Maureen.
Marine, yes.
Yeah, but not at
So
Worlds or
not at Worlds, no.
Nationals. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are just some of my favorite moments when like, hey, you're that you I think I follow you on Instagram.
Yep. Love
You know,
it.
those are my favorite ones for sure.
They're pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why are you passionate about paddling? And why is it paddling and not other sports?
Gosh, I don't know. Well, I do know, right? Paddling is an obsession. Um, it's a lifestyle, right? No, I'm just kidding. It kind of
It's
is
about
though.
lifestyle.
It kind of, I think, I don't know. You know, I get on the water when I'm out training. What either like there's two things that you're doing on the water. If you're on, at least for me, like if I'm on a dragon boat, right, then we're training for like a specific race or just training to get better, right, as a team, right? But when I'm on my one man, and it's either I'm doing one or two things. I'm either training for dragon boat or I'm training for outrigger race, or I'm either surfing my canoe or downwinding, right? So when I find myself like downwinding, you know, 15, 20 knots sustain, and once I found what that was like, and once I finally learned how to understand how to surf, right? Like that was like, it's exhilarating, right? It's addicting. It's dynamic. It's super fun, right? And I don't think about anything else, right? I don't think about anything else that goes around me. Like if I'm like had like a really stressful week or something, right? Get on the water, go train, or even on the 6-man, right? Get on the water, train, and that's the only thing I'm thinking about is making sure that we can push the boat together.
Mm-hmm.
So And why not any other sports, right? I mean, I don't know. I kind of did growing up. I played soccer. I was kind of obsessed with that for a little bit, and I grew up skateboarding. I mean, I still kind of do that, but I feel like with paddling, I've kind of like, it's been like 14 years since I started paddling, right? So you're always like kind of progressing in what you do, and I don't know. I think you kind of get like, you can always get better or you can always get slower, right? But you're always getting better, and I kind of feel like I've done this for so long that like, even though I've like done it for so long, it's still just as fun, right? But sometimes you'll need a break for sure, right? Sometimes you get burnt out in your training, so that's why you got to mix up like those times where you're just taking your canoe surfing. And
Would you say that paddling has changed your life? And if it has, how does it influence other parts of your life?
I think paddling has changed my life because in a way that is positive for sure. It keeps me, it's good physical conditioning, and keeps you in good physical shape. And, I think it helps with, your mental health and your ability to kind of just know that even though things are hard, right, eventually things will come to an end, right? You just got to keep pushing through. And that's a good analogy. I like to think of it sometimes because, sometimes you get in a very long race and you're like, oh man, this is awful, right? So, but you're thinking about what needs to get done, right? What needs to happen to keep pushing your boat or your boat forward, right? And if you think about it in dragon boat perspective, right? And your the pain sets in really fast, and you have 20 people that count on you, right? It helps with your ability to be a team player, right? Team player at work, team player at school or whatnot, and kind of people that you're around, right? So I've always been the kind of, I love team-based things, right? But then also if you're on your one man, it helps you kind of your mental fortitude, right? So kind of just keep on pushing.
I guess this is maybe more of a challenging question. What's something that you want to see more of in paddling? Like more collaboration and between some groups, or like more cultural preservation, or like spreading culture, or like growth in a certain area of the sport with like a certain population.
I think I've seen this a little bit more on the West Coast, right? But I think when we say about paddling, right, there's a lot of different disciplines, right? There's a lot of different disciplines in the sport of paddling. But for the most part, I've been talking about outrigger canoe and dragon boat racing, right? And I think what's happening now, right, is during the pandemic, a lot of paddlers are dragon boat paddlers are getting on one mans, right? And once we learn, because getting on a one man is like, once you learn how to move a boat, like you get 20 people don't know how to move a boat on a 20 man on a dragon boat, like it goes really fast,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what I find now, right, and it is that a lot of dragon boat paddlers are racing outrigger paddling, right? I mean, a paddle sport and a paddle sport, they're all the same, right? They all move the boat forward, right? Whether it's a dragon boat, whether it is a outrigger canoe, right? Yes, philosophies might change things like mechanics, right? But people are open to trying new things rather than sticking one particular kind of style or stroke technique to that particular sport. And there's no real progression happening, right? And not one sport is better than the other. They all have their own challenges to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to, when I was in California, I started going to a couple different clubs. This is a couple of my early years in California. They're like, "Oh, you dragon boat," right? And that's the kind of reaction that I get all the time. "Oh, you
there's
dragon
like a
boat?"
stigma to it.
Yeah, it's like you don't know how
Yeah.
to paddle, right? And then so you're just like, man, forget you, right? I don't want to join a club that is like kind of doing this, right?
Mhm.
And so, and that kind of drives me a little bit, right? That kind of drives me to like try to be as fast as I can in this community, right? Because I want to show that even though you're a dragon boat paddler, what's to say that you can't paddle your own canoe just as fast, right?
Mhm.
And or whatever craft you're on
Mhm.
with whatever team, right? So paddling is paddling, right? Like sometimes I would show up to sprint practice and I'll use my dragon boat paddle. And then I would be ahead of everybody, right? And I just go, and I'll do on one side.
Mhm.
I go, hey, what's the difference? Nothing. It's just a paddle, right? There's no difference, right? It's the paddler that makes the boat move, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what kind of discipline you do, right?
Mhm.
It depends on the paddler, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like a little bit more cohesion on the, like, hey, we're all doing the same thing, right? So there's no real difference in what we do.
And the more that people from all disciplines try other disciplines, the better you're going to get in each discipline. Like a dragon boater who tries outrigger, like they're going to become a better dragon boat paddler because they're doing outrigger. Like,
Yeah,
I guess
because
like
yeah,
yeah,
because
there's like
different.
so much transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Things transfer and relate to each other. And what I mean with outrigger paddling, right? You have long distance, right? So you have to learn how to be efficient and there's only 6 of you guys, right? And then you have the dynamics of the ocean, right? Changing up the way how you're paddling, you have the rhythm of the boat that changes, right? To work with the ocean. And then then you get them on a dragon boat and then you're doing the same thing but a lot faster, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's definitely where I stand on that part.
I think there's definitely progress being made toward like people being accepting of dragon boat paddlers. And I think the pandemic might have had a lot to do with that too,
Yeah.
since so many people are, buying their own one mans. But, you know, thinking about even like with marathon canoe, people are crossing over from outrigger and dragon boat to marathon canoe. It's like, yes, the sports, like the distances are different, the types of races are different, but like good paddling is good paddling. And you
Yeah.
become a better marathoner when you get better in the outrigger and vice versa. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think one of my favorite moments was, what was it? I think it was the Hano Hano race here in Oceanside
mhm.
for the one man men's, right? Yeah, we have Danny Ching up there and like, a couple other people, right? On the one man's, right? But like I think it was like 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all dragon boat paddlers, right? And they were all within like a couple minutes of each other. Maybe a couple minutes, maybe, I don't know. Either less than a minute or a minute, more than a minute, right? And I thought that was pretty awesome to see.
Mhm.
So well, they have a dragon boat background, right? But they've been
Right,
paddling
yeah.
out for sure for a while, right? So
Mhm.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
One day we'll get someone that started in dragon boat at the top of the podium.
For sure.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
it would be.
there's a lot of talent out here for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, two more questions. What's your favorite post paddling meal?
It's really bad. I like to get pizza. I like to get, well, gosh, I know you said one meal. Um, yeah, pizza for sure.
What kind?
Yeah.
From a particular
If it's a
place?
long, if it's a long one, if it's like a long, like
A long
long day,
pizza or long paddle?
a long paddle.
Oh.
Yeah. If it's a long paddle, for sure pizza. I don't know. I get really hungry. Um, where? Anywhere. I think my favorite pizza place right now is a place called Best Pizza here in Oceanside. It's pretty good.
What is there a particular type of pizza that you get?
I get like the buffalo chicken ranch pizza.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, really, it's pretty good.
All right.
Yeah.
I wish I could indulge in pizza, but cheese and me don't get along anymore.
No.
No. Sad.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the last one. Kind of a big question, but it's like a short kind of answer. If you had one piece of advice to give to any young or any aspiring paddler, what would it be?
My advice. Well, my advice, my advice I always tell people is to learn from different disciplines. There is never the way of paddling. It's only a way to paddle. And I like that quote a lot because it just helps that, you can literally try anything and see if it moves your boat faster or not, right? Or different analogies or philosophies or mechanic, and that kind of work in towards that. But yeah, always just learn and just be humble, and always ask questions. That's definitely my my advice, right? So, and just kind of train. It depends who you train with too, right? Train with faster people. You want to go fast, train with fast people, then you just learn how to keep up or stay next to them, right? So that's something we've definitely applied to some of our friends, right? If they're paddling with us, right? They either try to keep up or they get left behind, and then we'll come back for them, right? But then we'll kind of just give them tips, right? They'll start asking questions and start mentoring them, and kind of, I'm always all about mentoring the next generation, right? Especially these kids, especially in the under 23, under 24 division, right? That was great. To see, at least there was one kid I was kind of training with, and he's gotten really fast, right? Like scary fast. Like he's beating me sometimes. I'm like, oh man, but
Uh-oh.
yeah,
Watch out. You're seen on Premiere.
I know, right? So but it just helps elevate the competition, right? Helps keep everyone on their toes, and keeps everyone on their toes and keeps everyone honest, right? That's the best part. So
yeah,
just stay humble and ask questions and learn, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely would like to get on a marathon canoe sometime, though, for sure.
Well, the next time you're on the East Coast, like you were on the East Coast like last year at some point. I was like, you should talk to James and see if he can get you out in the marathon canoe. And you're like, okay. And then I don't think you did.
I think something happened. I think I had a race. Oh yeah, I think there was a race.
Oh, in October. Yeah, in those States. Yeah.
Yeah, I just signed up and I was like, I want to see how I do here on the East Coast.
Then you did pretty well, didn't you?
Yeah, second place, open men.
Yeah, and that's a good crew of people there. Those are some of the best East Coast outrigger guys. So it's coming up, but our club's race now is pushed back to October. It's October 15th, which is like Indigenous Peoples Day weekend is the weekend before that. That's like the 8th, 9th, 10th. And then our race is the following weekend. So plan your trip back out to see your mom accordingly.
Yeah, for sure. And
my uncle just got a Draco.
My uncle just got a Draco.
Uncle got a Draco?
Yeah.
Oh, because I met Will when I was out at Dana Point one day in this past March, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just like, because I asked him like, do you have a Draco for me to try? And he was like, no, not on me right now. And then I said, okay, well, I guess like if someone buys one on the East Coast, I'll hit them up and try it. So I will hit your uncle up.
Oh, Draco's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's really nice in the flat for sure. I hear it's fun in the surf as well, but I've only tried it in the flat. Yeah.
Maybe because he raced our race last year.
So Uncle Paul. That's my Uncle Paul.
Oh, okay. Your other uncle got it?
His uncle. Yeah.
Uncle Al got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So, but it's getting pretty big out here now. It's V1.
Oh yeah,
So,
I've seen a lot of like the breezy boys doing that.
yeah.
Yeah, are they all going to world sprints or is this just for fun?
Everyone's going V1 because it it's I'm not sure why they said they're going V1, but it one, it improves your paddling,
Mm-hmm.
it improves your boat feel.
Mm-hmm.
From my own experience, learning how to paddle V1 is pretty interesting, right? It's like really, I almost feel like it's the most primitive way of paddling an outrigger canoe.
Mm-hmm.
It's V1, right? Because you don't have a rudder, and there's a lot of things that come into play when it comes to paddling the V1, right? The current, the bump, like everything you think of, the way you hold, the way your pressure is being applied, like it's a lot. And it's really interesting I to see it, and how you're really connected. You get the most, like from my experiences, you learn how to really connect with your canoe in the water.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's all it really is.
Yeah.
You don't get the same feel as you would in a OC1. It almost feels like I'm on a cloud.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. It's like, yeah, the whole shape is like a little different and it's longer than a lot of OC ones, but just like removing the rudder does make such a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My outrigger club just, I think one got RA donated one to RA Tahiti donated one to the club,
Oh,
I think.
oh,
The
oh,
club
wow. All
has
right.
one,
Yeah.
but I
Right.
did try it and like even like when you're in the wind and like what you have to do, the adjustments you have to make so that you go in the direction you want to, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is such a different feel. Like the stroke is like just so different, even to outrigger canoe. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, it's because it's dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
You have like OC1, you just have just front and back, right? And then on the V1, you have like it's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, for
I
the
feel like you would
Dana
be good
Ocean
at it though.
Challenge, huh?
I feel like you would be good at it though, because you steer
Yeah,
marathon.
I mean, I hopped in it and I was totally fine because like I also do marathon C1, which I feel like that's even more primitive than the V1
Mm,
because you don't have an AMA, so like there isn't like one side, like you're not being dragged left, but you do
mm-hmm,
have to like switch sides to steer and like you still do some steering strokes to go where you need to go and like turning is a
mm-hmm.
whole thing too, and you have to lean the boat to move it. Um, but yeah, I when I got into the V1 for the first time, I was like, oh, this is a little easier than the first time I was in C1. Like there's things that are more challenging in the V1 than in the C1, but at the same time, like a lot of the mechanics did transfer, so it was like an easy switch for me.
I mean, I went outside the jetty last week on Friday in a V1 for the first time. It was probably the perfect conditions you can learn how to ride, like surf in a V1. But I got out there, I got spooked, a little spooked. Like I was like trying to like get in a little bump, and I thought I was gonna flip over. I didn't feel like I had no control, and then my buddy kind of talked to me, and I was like, okay, I'm good now. I was like, I was getting a little spooked because of it, right? Because it almost really get no control, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll be better next time. How was the ocean challenge for you? The Dana Point race.
I was so intimidated because there were so many like really good paddlers there. And I keep saying, like, there's been a couple of outrigger races that I've done where I was like, oh, this is the most competitive women's field I've been in. Now this one's the most competitive women's field I've ever been in. And that one was the most competitive women's field I was in until the Wild Buffalo. And I was just like, oh, okay, I guess gotta see how all of this like East Coast training stacks up and grad school and everything. And I was kind of half expecting to get my butt kicked and I like 100% got my butt kicked and I was like, oh, okay, this is what paddling's like out here on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's good.
No, it
It's
was a
good.
great wake up call.
It's good.
Yeah.
It is good.
And it was like
Let
really
me
fun
ask you.
too.
Let me ask you this. So I don't know if you can cut this off, but when we after nationals, right? What was the team like? Was everyone fired up, like PDVA? You know, like
It's
kind of to
hard
get
for
fired up.
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me to gauge because I don't live in Philly anymore. It's so interesting too, like people like who are the people that you recruit? Like if they're thinking about like adults that you recruit, are they people that were athletes in college and high school, or are they people that are not athletes? Because if I hadn't paddled in high school at all, I wouldn't have had any sort of like athletic team or sport or anything. But at the same time, you have all these people. I think there's a guy, like a new-ish guy on PDBA who is maybe like a football player or something, and he's like really tall and
Mhm.
like really strong. Um, and like he has like that athlete mentality. So like he's a great person who's going to be a really good paddler if he continues to work at it.
Mhm. I think the recruiting part is hard.
Hmm.
It is hard to recruit. I think a lot of it is word of mouth or people who are curious. Um, I think it's got to take people who like I don't know. I don't know how it just became an obsession for me or a passion.
Hmm.
Um, and I think recruiting and trying to like emulate the passion that we have for it is like kind of hard, right? Until somebody comes on board and they're like, "Whoa, this is awesome," right? And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh yes, yes, this is what like they have that like determination look in their eyes," and you're like,
Hmm.
"We're gonna make sure that you like we're gonna continue to progress you, right?" And so those are the people that I like to work with and like start really like helping them like to get better, right? Because you're never gonna be as good. Like like you're never if you're not working on something constantly,
Hmm.
then you're just not gonna get either faster or you're just not if you're just stuck in one way, right? And being able to uh try new things and like just swallow your pride and don't like if someone calls you out and like, hey, look, try this, right? Do
Hmm.
this because of this, right? It's like, oh no, that's not how I learned it, and then you're gonna fail, right? So,
Hmm.
um, or you're just gonna stay exactly where you are,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah,
And I
for
think
instance, like,
for recruiting
mhm,
too, like you don't always have like, yeah, you want to have people in the sport that are like you who are really dedicated to getting better. And at the same time, like it's okay to also recruit people that are going to just like do it for fun, but like be fun
yeah,
people in the
yeah,
community.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and just you know, at the end of the day, it's a community sport, right?
Hmm.
The community sport, and each community has all especially here in Long Beach or in Dragon Boat Long Beach, right? You have all different levels of competitive you want to be on, right? You just want to be it for fun, or you just want to try it, or looking for a team that's just good, like cohesive, like wellness and synergy, right? Like there's all of that, right? People your age or not your age, right? So
Hmm.
there's different levels, different flavors, right? So you can kind of pick and choose what you want. Um,
Yeah. I thought we were only going to talk for a half an hour, but that's okay. You put two people in a Zoom room that like to talk about paddling and they will talk about paddling for an hour.
yeah,
So I don't
that's
want to
just how my
hold you back from your wonderful California weather and your
oh,
awesome workout that you
it's
have
really
planned.
cloudy today. I can show you what's going on here.